This is not some Ayurvedic texts are not something that we just read casually sitting in an easy chair. We have to hear it with attention. So Vidheya, Ayurvedopadesheshu Vidheya Paramadara. With great attention and focus, it has to be heard from a person who has good experience and insight. Shastram Gurumukhodgirnam Adayopasya Chasakrit Yak Karma Kurude Vaidya Savaidyo Onyetu Paskara. So this is the method of learning that has been mentioned. Shastram Gurumukhodgirnam. In fact, the text also say don't read in the absence of the Acharya, because we may misunderstand it. The Ayurveda, what is written, Ayurveda has predominantly been an oral tradition. Is only the writing is only supporting. It was through the Guru Parampara that this knowledge was transmitted from generation to generation. And the whole pros idea was to internalize. Ayurvedic texts and modern textbooks are different. Modern books are very descriptive. You read it, you catch some points, and you forget the rest of it. But Ayurvedic textbooks are extremely condensed. They are written in the Sanskrit language, which is specialized for, it is like zip file. As you start opening it, every time you come back and read it, you get newer and newer insights. That is why he says Adaya Upasya. Upasana of the textbook is needed. If you read it once and get an English meaning, that is not what is the insight that you will gain. In fact, translations can greatly restrict because it limits your understanding. When you start reading in Sanskrit and looking at deeper meanings, many of these meanings will be understood only in a practical context. That is why it is said that you must learn from an experienced teacher who has also had that same experience of learning it. So when you are starting studying an Ayurvedic text, it is a lifelong commitment. It is not just for the exam. You are going to do an upasana of the grantha till the end of your life. So practicing, coming back to the text, thinking about it, contemplating, then getting insights. This is a back and forth process which you cannot stop. That is why we say we must read the text, because one reading, two readings, three readings, it's not enough to get to the depth of the insights that the text is conveying. We may say Sukham is happiness, but that is a very gross meaning. Sukham, Sukha, Sushtuka, good space. We can even, as we go deeper and deeper and understand, we get deeper layers of meaning. Even today, it is an experience. I don't know how many times we may have read the Ashtanga or Charaka Samhita, but when you start reading it again carefully, the original Sanskrit, with a focus to understand a deeper meaning, I'm surprised how new insights are obtained again and again. That is the power of a text. And if we are starting the study with the guidance of a person who has that experience, then this journey becomes very quick and fast and more fruitful. So it is said that when you study a shastra, if you don't have a guidance, the problem is it will become dukkha, it will become vilambidam, dukkhena, vilambena, and anishchidam also. We don't know whether we'll be able to complete it. But when there is a proper person to guide, sukhena, drutena, nischayena cha shastra. That is the importance of Shastram Guru Mukhodgirnam. Learn it from a proper person who has, and I think Dr. Prasad has spent so many years as a disciple with the great master, Vaidyabhushanam K. Raghavan Tijmalpad sir. And so he represents a very, very powerful modern tradition of Ayurveda in Kerala. And I think the incisive scholarship and understanding of this great guru, is unmatched in modern times. Like we can tell very proudly that we are all proud to have had such a great guru in Kerala, who was adept in the Shastra and also in practice. And people like Dr. Prasad has representing such a powerful tradition, and he is making that knowledge available for the next generation also. So I think we will have that great privilege of learning, the insights. And I think Raghavan Virmalpad as a guru has been exceptional. He has been able to bring out new interpretations that are so relevant for our modern times of how Ayurveda can be applied. So he belonged to the past and the present at the same time. Many of us, when we were learning Ayurveda, his books were our solace. At that time, we had to study Ashtanga Sangraham, and his books are what helped us to take the baby steps in Ayurveda and also move further. But Dr. Prasad has been blessed by being in his presence. So I think this is a very amazing platform where all the younger generation can learn from. They are contacting not one individual, but they are contacting a whole tradition through this process. So being in the presence of a master, a teacher who has delved into the depths of that knowledge, not only intellectually but also applied it practically, that is definitely the ideal way to move forward. So Shastra, here the whole idea is why this repetition, why we have to start and study the Shastra repeatedly. Because in Ayurvedic textbooks the goal is that the Shastra creates a samskarana of our buddhi. So mati is Shastra krita buddhi. So till that, we have to sharpen our intellect to the point that it becomes very powerful, because Ayurveda yukti is so difficult. So Shruta says, "Buddhimadam abhi buddhim akuli kuryuhu." Because of the complexity, even a very intelligent person will get confused. In fact, we are not sharpening our intellect through the study of Shastra. The vikalpas of the disease itself, samsargad rasarudhiradivistatesham, doshascha kshaya samata vivriddhi bhedai anandyam taradama yogadascha yadan janiyad avahita manaso yathasum. This Taradama Kalpana is so complex. It is Ananta. So if your mind is not very sharp, if that Shastra Jyotis is not illumining your mind, then it is very easy we can get confused. So that is why the Acharyas have said, Shastram Jyoti Pragashartham Darshanam Vipulamati Tabhyam Bhishak Suyuktabhyam Chikitsan Naparathyati. It is not enough that you have raw intelligence. We may be very intelligent, that is raw intelligence, but we need Shastra Krita Buddhi. So Shastra has to be there as a light. And that Shastra comes to life in the presence of an individual who has also internalized it. Satshastri Kurvandi Shastrani. It is the teacher who makes the Shastra a Shastra, because he brings life to that. So this ideal combination, hearing a Shastra from the face of a experienced master, that is the traditional way of learning Ayurveda. And it is not a one-time thing. It is a lifelong thing. Satadadhyanam. So I am very, very happy to see that this vision and this inspiration is there behind this initiative, and even the name reflects that. So by hearing again and again, the bodha has to be made more deeper and deeper. So it is a perpetual process. The more you hear about it, the more you think about it, the more you contemplate, the more you practice, the more your bodha will become deepened. That is the method of studying, propagating Ayurveda. When we were students, many of our teachers used to say, how should Ayurveda be propagated? So many of my teachers used to, don't propagate. What is propagation? Don't become a political propagator of Ayurveda. The best way to propagate it is to study it properly. So he always used to say the biggest mistake the Ayurvedic community is making in modern times is they are not studying it properly, so it is not propagating. Athiti, bodha, acharana, pracharana. This is the method of propagating. So first is adhiti, learn. Then develop the bodha. With the bodha, do the acharana. And then the pracharana will automatically happen. You cannot stop it from getting pracharana. So today, without the Athithi Bodha Acharana, we are trying to do Pracharana. That is why it is not becoming successful. It is a plain truth and a very sad fact. So such initiatives, because of course now the National Commission has been set up, so maybe many things will change in the future in the curriculum of Ayurvedic education. We are all very hopeful about that. But there is a big gap in the current education and how education should really happen. So programs like this, I think, will fill a much needed lacuna and gap in Ayurvedic learning today. So, with these words, I would like to wish this venture all success. Prasad is a very dear friend of mine, and I know how he is an epitome of Ayurvedic knowledge, and I'm sure under his able guidance and scholarship, we can inspire many more young people the younger generation of Ayurveda to scale great heights. And Ayurveda has to reach out to the whole world. In the wake of the pandemic, we know the world is searching for a complete healthcare system. And I think Ayurveda is destined to fill this gap in spite of all obstacles and resistance and difficulties. And this is the way it is. Wherever Ayurveda is being learned properly in the right spirit, I think there is some hope. All other propagation activities are only, superficial. It will not be lasting. So I think this is a very fundamental, basic thing, because when there is a confident Ayurveda physician, Dr. Prasad also knows nobody can prevent them from reaching out to the patient. And when more and more such physicians reach out to the patient, the people itself will bring about a change. And that is the way Ayurveda, I think also only way Ayurveda can be propagated. Political, all there, we are facing a lot of difficulties, challenges, problems. So let us conquer the world with the sword of knowledge, not other means. And I think that way this program is a great initiative. All the best wishes, and my pranams to Dr. Prasad.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you, sir. Now I would like to invite Vedya Prasad sir, and it is basically an honor and a blessing for all of us that we have an opportunity to learn from you, sir. And basically, sir, it's like same goes for you. You don't need an introduction, and we have been learning from you through some previous lectures also. And there were many students who came for this program just because Prasad sir will be teaching us. So and the students are also very enthusiastic, and the people who have registered for this program, they are also from different walks. Like some of them are BM students, some of them are practitioners also, some of them are teachers also. And for them, I would like to just give a very brief introduction of Sir. Sir is Director and Chief Physician in Sunetri Ayurveda Ashram, Thrissur. Sir is also Guru in CRAV, New Delhi. And Sir is a disciple of Vaidya Bhushanam, Padma Bhushan, K. Raghavan, Tirumalpadi Sir. And in his professional experience, he was previously serving as principal of Ashtangam Ayurveda Vidyapeetham. And I do not have more words to say, but sir, it's just like we are feeling very blessed to have you here. Thank you, sir.
Okay. So can I start?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Okay. Okay. Chaturmukha samarambham vakbhadacharya madhyamam asmadacharya paryandam vande guru paramparam. My dear and respected friend Rammanohar ji, then Dr. Charu Sharma and the team Ayuscholar, many others who are there in this session. A very warm good evening and namaskaram to all of you. It is always a pleasure listening to Dr. Rammanohar, and what he made in his inaugural note is quite interesting and quite important also. What we need right now, I mean, because the world is changing. The way in which medicine is taught is going to be changed. And Ayurveda also. We cannot keep ourselves away from this present situation. So everything is going to change. So what should we do as a stream of Vaidyam, medicine, health science, healing? What should we do? That is an important question. So what should we do? The answer should come from what do we do and what we were doing. So when we discuss that aspect, I think we will find many things, many lacunae, which we were not addressing earlier. We were in a sort of very complacent mood. We were more than happy with what we are having. And many a times what we had in the past, we were in some sort of a euphoria, telling again and again what we had in the past. We were like that, we had that, we told all these things well in advance. Our scriptures have mentioned everything which maybe the scientists of the world are going to discover or invent tomorrow. So in that sort of a euphoria, we were quite lazy. But I think no system of Vaidyam can move like that, cannot move forward like that, because the demands are changing. So even if we have a commendable mass of wisdom, knowledge with us, we have to read it again and again. We have to explore it again and again. We have to reinvent what is told, and we have to, sometimes we have to have more interpretations for what we already know. And another important thing is that we have to bring them to the fore, to the practice. The public should be benefited from what we know or what we have with us. Otherwise, I think it is not going to survive. It will be a showpiece in a museum. So that should not happen. Actually, we were in such a track. We learned something and we practice something else. We learn or we pretend to learn Ayurveda and we practice allopathy. And our role model is MBBS. We are trying to become graduates of Western medicine. We pretend to be. In many aspects, in our mannerisms, in our dress code, many things. But unfortunately, we never become that. Then we get frustrated. So I think all these things are to be changed. We have to understand that it is not an unfortunate incident. It is not an unfortunate affair. We are fortunate, we are lucky enough to have the wonderful bulk of very distinct knowledge stream, which is still in practice in many parts, and which can work wonderful things in the art of healing. So we have to be the real trustees of that knowledge. At this point of time, that knowledge stream is supposed to flow through us. And it is like a river. It is not like a pond. The water in a pond gets stagnated for a long time and obviously tend to get rotten. Whereas the river is not like that. River is a continuous flow. It never stops. Its speed may change from terrain to terrain. And the quality of water also may change from the territory to territory. And now this river of knowledge is supposed to flow through us. So it is our duty to make it as clear as possible, as refined as possible, and as beneficial as possible. It should continue, it should flow. It is not going to get stagnated at any point of time. So that responsibility we have to take up. No excuse. Because the world actually needs this knowledge. The healthcare system everywhere is in somewhat a deep crisis. It is, I won't say that it is in a standstill, but in a deep crisis. That is why more and more people are looking for alternate methods, or safer alternatives, effective alternatives. This alternative is not a bad word that way. There is an established system, but that is facing a crisis, so they are looking for an alternative. So you should be able to come up with a real alternative, which anybody can take up, practice, put them into their own lives. Ayukamayamane. So Ayurveda Upadesha is for everyone. Ayukamayamane. But for that, as Dr. Rammanohar rightly mentioned, we have to learn it properly. Learning about Ayurveda and learning Ayurveda, they are entirely different stuffs. Right now, we are more into learning about Ayurveda. We want to know something about Ayurveda because we have an examination. We want to know something about Ayurveda because we want to get a degree, a graduation, a BA MS. We want to learn about Ayurveda because that is going to give us a title doctor. And with that doctor title, we are supposed to do many things in our life. So we are all about learning about Ayurveda, not learning Ayurveda. That makes a big world of difference. That is where Dr. Rammanohar was emphasizing. That is where the correct methodology of learning is becoming important. What we require is learn Ayurveda, not learn about Ayurveda. Study about Ayurveda, study Ayurveda. That is where the word sadhana comes. The sadhana required to learn about Ayurveda and the sadhana required to learn Ayurveda are entirely different. So we need that adhidi, bodha, acharana, pracharanam comes only when you learn Ayurveda, not learn about Ayurveda. So we have to understand from the very basics. It is not about the language or something like that. when you have a proper mentor, a teacher who can sit with you and teach you, I think language is not going to be a constraint, a big constraint. You have to understand what the real stuff is, and you have to start doing things while explaining the characteristics of a Vaidya. Vagbhada mentions Daksha Tirthatha Shastrarthaha Drishtakarma Shuji Bhishak. So that Tirthatha Shastrarthaha is very important. That was the way in which the Shastra was taught. And the entire design itself is for such a learning. Tirthatha Shastrarthaha. Tirtham is Guru Samipam, Guru Mukham. So the Shastra should be learned from a proper mentor, and Drishta Karma, what we learn as the theory part, we should see them, those theory parts, working. Then only you will be getting the sort of confidence, conviction to be a practitioner. That is lacking. It is. I'm not going to blame somebody for the present situation. When we put our school of learning into another framework of modern academies, everything went on well, fine. We got maybe 14 or more departments. There is a proper staff pattern for that. We have different systems of conducting the course. Sometimes it was year system, sometimes profession system, something else. Everything was fine. There is a foolproof examination system. We have rank holders, everything. But a basic mismatch happened. The framework of the academy and the subject which is going to be taught, they were not matching each other. So that was the biggest tragedy happened. While we are learning one text or one subject or a stream, yeah, stream is the right word, because there is a continuity from the beginning to the end. So it is not some bits and pieces of information. It is not that descriptive. Many of them are in very short versions of expression. Sometimes we call them as sutra. And this sutram, another meaning of sutram is thread. So this thread is used to make a garland where the beads are very beautifully arranged. You will be seeing the garland as a whole, a beautiful arrangement of beads or flowers. You're not going to see the sutra, the thread, which connects all these things. But the strength, the integrity, the utility of that garland is going to be decided by the strength of the sutra. So that connection between the various areas of or sections of the Shastra, that should be explored, which is almost a near impossible task in the conventional current academy, because they are taught as subjects for examination with certain syllabus points. So the main task of the teacher, I was also a teacher in an academy, the main task of the teacher is to cover the syllabus within the stipulated time. But what we really need, what we really need to do is to uncover the syllabus and see what is there inside. That cannot be done in the present way of learning or teaching, because it is always syllabus oriented, examination oriented. So there will be a specific pattern, department centered. So the main bulk will be cut into pieces, and the different teachers who teach these pieces need not have some sort of a coherence in the ideas. They may be representing different schools. They may be, sometimes there may not be a school at all. And the way in which the Siddhanta is taught should have a proper continuity. Even if we talk in terms of subjects, somebody who teaches the Siddhanta should also teach something about the Kriya Sharira. And the same teacher should teach something in the Nidana also. And obviously, he should teach at least something about the Chikitsa also. And these four terminals should go hand in hand all throughout the course period. This definitely is not a possibility in the current academy. So that is why we are forced to explore into the informal ways of learning, where whatever we have gathered is put in a proper shape, arrangement to make it a beautiful garland. That is inevitable. And to start with, as everybody is aware of, at the entry point into the course, we have very limited say. We have very limited options. It is all based on maybe some entrance examinations, the state level marks or the national level marks. And many times somebody is getting into the course by chance, not by choice, most of the times. And they are not prepared for that. It is not the case with any other stream. Only very rare streams have got this sort of an issue. As you all know, the LKG, UKG, then first standard to the 10th standard, then +1, +2. So total 14 years. These 14 years are actually a pre-MBBS course. So somebody who is getting into the MBBS course, as per the present way of selection, need not feel any jerk at the point of entry, because he is made for that. He is coming to the course after 14 years of pre-MBBS course. When such a person, such a student, get into the curriculum to the course of BAMS, he is actually a strange character in a comic story who has landed up in a place where he is a total alien. There are people around, but he does not understand who they are, what is their language, what is the way they are living, what do they communicate, what is the alphabet of their language, nothing. And hardly we find a serious effort to bridge this issue. It is there for time. From the very beginning of academic Ayurveda, this issue is there. While I was the principal in an Ayurveda college, I tried to bridge this with a different type of intervention, with a 15 days course module for that transition, which I am very sure that is not at all sufficient. But now I am happy that the same pattern is introduced in the national level curriculum as well. But it is not sufficient. There should be many things to happen, to follow, but forget about all these things. Our challenge is in the informal platform for those who are really interested, how to give an opening. That is our challenge. That is the real target of this program, while I am getting engaged with the Ayuscholar that way. How we can bridge, or how can we manage with that sort of a transitional jerk that every student is going through, and how to make a smooth entry into the BAMS course so that he or she can travel through the entire course period with a better energy, better outlook, better momentum, so that the adhidi bodha acharanam that happens very seriously, in a very dedicated manner. Actually, that adhidi bodha acharana prajaranam, they are supposed to be the keywords of Ayurvedic learning. In the Upanishad literature, we find swadhyaya pravajanam. Swadhyaya pravajanam. So the prajaranam in that adhidi bodha ajarana prajaranam and the pravajanam in the swadhyaya pravajanam, they may be considered as same. So 50% that way. The first 50% is swadhyayam in Upanishad literature, which is to be made properly filled with the three elements, adhidi, bodha and acharana. So swadhyayam that way is proper adhidi, bodha, acharana. So when you are committed to do proper swadhyayam, what you are supposed to do is proper adhidi, bodha, acharanam. Then only comes the remaining part of prajaranam, which is going to happen, I mean, naturally. Of course, there are specific methods, but that happens. I think somebody who is into the swadhyayam properly, somebody who is into the adhidi, bodha, acharanam properly, will obviously become the torch bearers of the Shastra. And I am pretty sure I learned under a guru for 21 years. He was very particular about this message, never compromise in Swadhyaya. And the only thing which he insisted was that never compromise in reading at least a couple of chapters of Ashtanga Hridayam every day. Whoever you are, wherever you are, whatever you are doing. So that is becoming some sort of a samskara. And every time we read Ashtanga Hridayam, any text, I'm giving Ashtanga Hridayam as an example, which is an elementary text, or a text on the other end sometimes. Every time you read Ashtanga Hridayam, you come up with a new idea. Whatever you have learned yesterday, when you read again today, definitely you will be getting a new idea. Actually, this is the case with most of the literature of this country. Need not be Vaidyam alone, but regarding any other branch of knowledge, we can find this. Swami Chinmayananda used to preach Bhagavad Gita again and again. His life mission was to teach Bhagavad Gita. So wherever he go, I think his prime mission is to conduct at least a 7 days program of Bhagavad Gita. So one day, one of these listeners from a particular Gita Satram asked him, Swamiji, you are doing this again and again, and listening to your words, I started reading Gita again and again. And now maybe I have tried it 100 times. 100 times I read Bhagavad Gita and nothing happened. So what is the meaning that you are saying it again, read Gita, read Gita? Then Swamiji, with a smile on his face, replied, oh, very good. You read Gita 100 times. That's nice. But the problem is, you have gone through Gita 100 times, but Gita has not gone through you, not even once. So there is no meaning in reading Gita if Gita is not going through at least once. So that is the sadhana. That is where samiksha is becoming important. So you can read in a very casual way 100 times, 200 times, maybe 1000 times. So such a wonderful book is Ashtanga Hridaya in Ayurveda. You read Ashtanga Hridayam again and again, and you may feel the entire exercise as quite boring because you're reading Ayukamemanena Dharmartha Sukha Sadhanam Ayurvedopadeseshu Videya Paramadaraha Brahma Smrutva. What is going on? But every time you read, you are making yourself ready for the Ashtanga Hridayam to go through you. So there is a preparatory phase for this. And you are not supposed to stop it at any point of time in your life. That is Swadhyaya Pravajanabhyam Ma Pramadidavya. No excuse. You have to do it. It is a upasana, Shastra upasana. But these things we cannot expect if there is a special drive for that. And that is the mission that Ayuscholar is taking up. And see, especially because of this COVID pandemic, thanks to the SARS virus, that we have the opportunity to have these sort of platforms. And I was quite amazed to see that there are takers for basic principles. Of course, still the charm goes to programs which gives you a list of medicines which you can put in your prescription pad the very next day, or if not the same day. But still, it is quite interesting that there are takers for basic principles, Adhisthana Siddhandam, we call it in Malayalam. So they are supposed to be the strength of the Shastra. They are most of this Siddhantas, what we call, they are universal. They are going to be the eternal part of the Shastra. Whereas the application part, that may change from time to time and place to place. They are improvisations as per the need of the situation. But we should have a thorough understanding about the basic principles. Then only you can have that sort of an improvisations. And I'm really happy to get associated with this program. If there are, I think we will start the proper program from maybe next Monday onwards. So I think if something I have to add, some questions or something like that to give a better idea about the entire Shruti Bodham program, I invite or I request Dr. Charu Sharma to come up with them.
Thank you so much, sir. Sir, we had some questions from the students, so we could not take all the questions, but we have compiled this. Like everything can be covered. The basic portion area can be covered into these 5 questions. So we will be asking you these questions, sir. So shall we begin, sir?
Oh, please.
Yes, sir. Okay, so this was a very interesting question that was asked by one of the practitioners, that how to enhance Shraddha and Shuddha in the Shastra.
Shraddha and Shuddha, actually they are almost the same thing. Shraddha is about I mean, there are actually Shraddhavan Labhade Vidya or Labhade Jnanam. So that Shraddha, actually it has got multiple meanings. Adaraha, or that means the respect, or shuddhi, sometimes the purity. Then bhakti, vishwasa, all these things are the meanings of shraddha. And kshuddha, kshuddha means the that appetite or hunger. Bhojanecha, that is what we call as kshuddha. So bhojanecha and bhakti in Shastra, actually some of the points we have already discussed, because many times the students are getting into the stream by chance, not by choice. So when you enter into a stream by choice, obviously you will have these two things, at least the seeds of shraddha and kshuddha with you, but that is not happening in the case of many students. So we will have to actually put them as fresh seeds. So that require a lot of homework. There is another word called, as far as the kshuddha is concerned, there is another word called kshuddha kushalaha. Kshuddha kushalaha means somebody who generates kshuddha. So we need somebody who generate kshuddha and shraddha. So we need shraddha kushalaha and kshuddha kushalaha in this context. So who all can be those shraddha kushala and kshuddha kushala? There are multiple members that way. We need the academy as a whole, the syllabus, teachers, the teaching technique, all should be working together as shraddha kushala and kshuddha kushala. And there should be something to dream about. There should be something to achieve. And there should be models around us. When, as a teacher, I preach and teach Ayurveda, and if I'm not a model to follow for the students, I cannot generate the sort of shraddha and kshuddha in my students. When I teach Ayurveda and I practice allopathy, the shraddha and kshuddha of my students also will be to learn Ayurveda, learn about Ayurveda and practice allopathy. That should not happen. So the environment in which the Vaidya is groomed, the formative years of the Vaidya, in terms of everything, that is going to be critical, the most important factor in bringing up these two very important principles. That means shraddha and kshuddha. I hope it is clear.
Yes, sir.
Is that answer enough? Okay.
So this was one of the questions from first year BMS students.
Oh.
How to learn Padarth Jnana and how to apply it in clinical aspect. Because it is, when we just enter into BMS first year, so on the very first day we are taught about Padarth Vigyan. So many of the times students find it very challenging that how do we really apply these principles into our practice and how do we go about it?
Yeah, that's an interesting question, and that is what I was talking about. You see that entire 14 years of learning are actually making the student a graduate in pre-MBBS, not in pre-Ayurveda. That is this Padartha Vijnanam is the best example to show the transitional jerk that every student is going through or suffering with. Padartha Vijnana, how to learn. The problem is, if you were learning this in your maybe the early years of your age, fifth year or sixth year of your life, you may not have this question at this point of time, because Padartha Vijnanam is going to be the basic language, alphabet, grammar for the entire thing what you are going to learn in Ayurveda. But unfortunately, you are conditioned in your formative years with something else. And now, all of a sudden, as if a fish is asked to live, it is taken out of the water and it is asked to live in the land tomorrow onwards. So that sort of a crisis we are going through. So we have to unlearn many things and relearn something else. That is the crisis. So we have to start from the Padartha Vijnanam, as in the keyboard, whatever you have learned as your scientific background. Many a times you will have to either keep all those folders away as an unused folder, at least for the time being. I won't ask them to everybody to select all and delete, but at least you have to keep them in the as an unused folder. Later we will take them and see whether we have something to use from it. So this Padartha Vijnanam is very important in the basic entry point of Ayurveda, because Padartham means the categories of everything. Whatever we are going to learn, we divide them into different categories. And that set of categories, they are known as Padarthas. So whatever we are going to learn in the Shastra, in the textbook, will come under one or the other of the Padarthas, these categories. So like any other stream, when you start learning something, say we start learning chemistry, we need some initial things to get an entry into the chemistry, no? We are learning biology. We are starting with something. What is a cell? What is the structure of a cell? Like that. Then only you are going to get into biology. Like that, Padartha Vijnanam is that basic language which includes the categories what we are going to discuss, the technical terms what we are going to discuss, the definitions what we are going to learn. Then with that capacity, we are supposed to get into the Shastra. So I think the second question is almost answered, because how to apply it in the clinical aspects means, it is not going to be the direct application of Padartha Vijnana in clinical practice. But it is all about the samskara, the culture, the way in which you learn. Suppose there is a ladder which takes you to the second floor of a building, and the ladder has got maybe 20 steps, and 19th step, the 20th step is the second floor. So you are asking, actually we need that 20th step only. What was the benefit of that first step in the ladder? You don't find any advantage of the first step to get on to that second floor, because second floor actually is from the 19th step. Similarly, the clinical aspect is the second floor. Now you are asking, what is the use of the first step? I wasted my time. I could have stepped directly to the 19th so that from the next step I reach the second floor. So I could have skipped all these things and I could have directly entered to the clinical aspect. That is not going to happen. These are the conditioning part, the basic alphabet and grammar and the language part. the technical terms, the definitions, what we are going to use in the learning all throughout, so that you are made into a Vaidya properly. There is a Vaidya. Within you, there is a Vaidya. But there are many unwanted things. It is like a beautiful idol carved out of a big stone. So even before making that idol was there within the stone. But somebody should work with it. Somebody should chip off the unwanted things. Then the stone becomes the idol. Likewise, you are a Vaidya within you, but there are many unwanted stuffs. Somebody should chip off. For that, we need many things. Then only slowly you will evolve into a beautiful idol, a beautiful Vaidya. So we need all these exercises of chipping off the unwanted things and making sure that the wanted things are not chipped off and everything is carved properly, so that at the end of the day, you come out as a beautiful Vaidya out of the raw stone. Got my point?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Thank you, sir. So the next question is, the student was referring to one of the previous lectures. So then he posed a question that what is a Swadhyaya Grantha and how to choose one?
Yeah, I told about the Swadhyaya, that is about Adhiti, Bodha and Acharana. Swadhyayam. Swadhyayam is by word meaning, it may be defined as self-learning, but the self-learning is not about sitting in a room all alone and by hearting something all the time. That is not Swadhyaya, because Adhiti should be followed by Bodha and Acharana. That Bodha part, that Mananam, Nididhyasam, all these things should happen. That Adhiti, Bodham and Acharanam, that makes you that beautiful idol out of that raw stone. So Swadhyayam is very important that way. Swadhyaya Grantham, you can decide. Sometimes you may be coming through a particular school, a particular kulam. We call it as a kulam, Guru Kulam. So that may be a school, a stream, a style. So they may be having a particular Swadhyaya Grantham in that particular school. Say, for example, if you consider the entire practice of Vaidyam in Kerala as an example, I'm taking the example of Kerala because it is still continuing what they were doing maybe 500 years ago or 700 years ago or 1000 years ago. That stream is unhindered. It is still flowing. So if you take it as an example, the Vaidyas of Kerala, they took Ashtanga Hrudayam as their Swadhyaya. There may be many reasons for that. Historical reasons, cultural reasons, many things. But they took Ashtanga Hrudayam as a Swadhyaya Grantham. The advantage of Ashtanga Hrudayam is that it is somewhat very short, not too bulky, and it is devoid of too much of technical jargons, written in very beautiful poetic way, and easy to by heart for a beginner, covers all the 8 branches in somewhat a balanced manner. And moreover, there are almost nil contradictions within the text. And there is a thread, as I told earlier, a sutram, which is connected from the beginning to the end in a flawless manner. We find in the first sloka of Ashtanga Hrudayam that Ragadi Rogan Sadadanu Shaktana Sheshagaya Prasudana Sheshan Ausukya Mohara Didan Jakhana Yopurva Vaidyaya Namostu Tasmai. And the text ends with Hrudayamiva Hrudayamedad Sarva Ayurveda Vangmaya Payodhehe Krutva Yat Shubhamaptam Shubhamastu Param Tado Jagataha. So in the beginning, the author was offering his salutations to that Apurva Vaidya who succeeded in conquering Ragadirogam. So this particular author, Vakpada, hails from such a lineage, from such a kulam. So obviously, he should have inherited that cultural aspect. The cultural aspect of a guru or a Apurva Vaidya who conquered Ragadirogam. So that should be reflecting in every members, every students, every generation of that kulam. And Vakbhada wrote the Ashtanga text, Ashtanga Hrudayam, and the ending lines are, whatever punyam I am supposed to get by authoring this book, which can be considered as the Hrudayam of the entire ocean of literature written so far in Ayurveda, let that punyam be for the blessings of the entire Jagat. That means I don't require anything. I don't have that ragam to get the fruits out of this authorship. So when you learn Ashtanga Hrudayam, you should also get connected with this thread from the first sloka to the last sloka. That is how you are going to become transformed. Somebody who has learned Vaidya is called as a Dvija. Dvija technically means a Brahmana. But that word comes from Dvija, somebody who has taken a second birth. That second birth is a cultural birth. The culture that he has gathered, he has assimilated by the learning of a text, Shastram. So that part should be taken care of while choosing the Swadhyaya Grantha. So that way, Ashtanga Hrudayam is considered as the one of the best Swadhyaya Grantha. But that doesn't mean that learning Ashtanga Hrudayam will make you somebody who has covered everything in Ayurveda. It is not so. There is no comparison between Ashtanga Hrudayam and Charakam. Charakam is such a huge work, such a beautiful work, an ocean, literally. Yadi hasti tadanyatra, yanne hasti na tat kvachit. That is the status of Charaka Samhita. And the philosophical foundation that it shows, and the beauty of explanations. So it is so rich that way. There is no comparison. But you cannot take Charaka Samhita as a Swadhyaya Grantham, especially in the early years of your learning. It is quite difficult. But still there are schools in India, I know, who has selected Charaka Samhita as their Swadhyaya Grantha. My humble salutations to them, because it is not an easy task. So you can decide whichever is handy. You can make some sort of a SWOT analysis that way also before selecting or choosing a Swadhyaya Grantha. Okay, I hope the idea is clear. Fine.
Yes, sir. Sir, this is also a question from first year BMS students who has just completed their first year BMS exam. How shall we start studying Sanskrit language, as we did not study this in our plus two or even before? So how shall we go for it?
Fine. That is a very common question everywhere. But interestingly, in current year's that transitional curriculum, they have included one topic called Vadadu Samskritam. Vadadu Samskritam is actually a very small booklet which is used very commonly in Kerala to teach spoken Sanskrit. It's a very small book, Vadadu Samskritam, Vishwa Samskrita Pradhishthanam. They released it. I do not know whether it is available in other languages. It is available in Malayalam. And we only introduced it in the transitional curriculum in our college, where I was working as the principal. Now it is a part of the transitional curriculum. Vadadu Samskritam is a good model to start with. Definitely, there will be many other similar works everywhere. Learning the spoken Sanskrit will give you a good entry to the proper detailed learning of Sanskrit. And if I'm right, CCIM has come up with a few books in which Ayurvedic portions are used to teach Sanskrit. Some areas from Ashtanga Hridayam is selected, and they are taught in the classical way of the old-fashioned way of teaching Kavya. So these things can be taken as an initial step forward and make it a point that at least by halfway through the course period, you will get some sort of a functional Sanskrit with which you can read the classics, Samhitas, to get at least the basic understanding. So don't bother about the fact that you have not learned Sanskrit in your up to your +2 levels. In the first year, Sanskrit is a paper, but don't be satisfied with that, because you are going to live with this, you are going to master this art and science of Ayurveda. So you always require some elementary, some functional Sanskrit to read and understand the Samhitas. So all throughout the course period, continue learning Sanskrit with whatever way you, there are many methods now in the YouTube. I have seen many people teaching Ayurveda from the very basic level. There are certain special institutes who conduct very base level Sanskrit classes, like if I'm right, the name is some Open Pathashala or something like that, which give you simple modules. Some of them are paid, some of them are free. So keep on learning Sanskrit, because interestingly, if you're going to maybe to China to learn medicine, initial time will be spent on learning the Chinese language. If you're going to Russia for learning medicine, initial time will be spent for learning Russian language. No excuse. So the same involvement we also should, when we are engaged in learning Sanskrit, Ayurveda, the initial effort should be, we should invest some time to learn Sanskrit, because all the textbooks are in Sanskrit. And definitely that is not going to be a problem with the first year learning. Now everybody will be thinking, then how can we study the other subjects in the first year? That is why I was saying earlier that under the guidance of a mentor, a proper teacher, learning the subjects in the first year, even though you don't have a preliminary understanding of Sanskrit, will not be a challenge. But don't get satisfied with a pass in the Sanskrit paper in the first year. Continue learning Sanskrit all throughout, and by the time you are completing the second profession or mid of third profession, you should have that functional Sanskrit to independently read Samhitas and continue. That is the easiest way that I would suggest.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. Okay. So the last question is, Shastra is often said to be a practice manual, but we are not aware with the basic rules to use this manual. Please guide.
That's a good question. That is what we were talking about the Padartha Vijnanam earlier. So Padartha Vijnanam is the basic rules to use this manual. So we will learn something. I think as we are arranging this program, not as a crash course for any examinations, I think we will move very slowly. Wherever we require, we will give more explanations with examples. We will take our own time to cover the chapters and uncover the facts behind them slowly. So I hope we will see how this practice manual is to be used properly first, and then we will start using. It is something like purchasing a very expensive electronic gadget and you get a manual with it. So the initial time will be spent to read the manual aloud and understand what the manual is saying. And then we will touch the big expensive gadget and we will start slowly practicing it. So I hope it will not be an issue.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. And this is basic messages, this is a basic message to all of you that, we all are at different stages of learning, all of us, but we are walking on the same path and we have, we are walking towards the same goal, Apurva Vedya. So this is a fundamental fact that should be known to all of you, and we should accept this as well.
Yeah, this is very important because say when we are teaching a particular class, say first BIMS students, we know that okay, the listeners or the learners are almost of the some sort of a homogeneity is there. But when we are taking the sessions for a very highly heterogeneous group, somebody may be a PG student, somebody may be in the fifth final professional internship, first years also. So we will see the strength of a chain is the strength of the weakest link of that chain, isn't it? It is not the strength of the strongest link. The weakest link defines the strength of the chain. So in the same way, we will focus on the weakest group of this team, and we will target them so that everybody should be benefited. But sometimes some people will have to move slowly so that even the last person is coming to us to our level, isn't it? So
Yeah.
that way we will plan our program. Let us look forward. I'll try to put all my efforts to make the dream of Ayuscholar a reality. So thank you for this wonderful platform. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you, sir. I hope there are no further questions. So thank you so much, sir. And we will be starting with from next week,
Next
the
month.
lectures. Okay. Thank you, sir.
Okay. Namaste, namaste, namaste to all of you.
Thank you.